The Rise of Africa, the continent, the diaspora, and BRICS explores the relationships that are affecting the global economy right now. This book explores the relationships of the African diaspora's influence on the African continent and why this is important in stabilizing relationships with an understanding of how BRICS impacts the future, good or bad. You can order your copy of The Rise of Africa today on Amazon.com. Neo-diplomacy is the new currency. Neo-diplomacy is the new currency. The reason that I can say that is you have a couple of different factors occurring right now as we speak on the world stage. The dollar is being disrupted. Nations are no longer wanting to engage with the United States. But the third factor that affects each and every one of us is that there is a diaspora from the African continent that's willing and able to engage our brothers and sisters on the continent. All right. Shalom, salama, Yemi, shalom. Greetings to all my Israelites, brothers and sisters from around the world. Whether you are of the bloodline of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the house of Israel, or you are a Gentile grafted into the house under the blood of Yahushua HaMashiach, I welcome you this morning, and I say that with all sincerity because we are now how the Most High works. If now that we're seeing this, we always have to do some sort of a quote post-mortem, I would say. We see this time, the time that started really back in April. There are two different things going on in tandem. Number one, you had the tariffs, and then number two, you had us in this community reaching on out with our brothers and sisters in earnest with the shipping container, the medical shipping container. And not just that, you also had other organizations that have created the bandwidth for us to begin to engage in the continent or on the continent. And now, as we're starting to see how things are really shaping up, things are moving in a situation, it shouldn't be surprising. But it is a surprise when you have other groups, other nations that are now coming and speaking out because really they have no choice. And on this channel, I have to say, I thank the Most High that at least, excuse me, Monday through Friday through Thursday at the least, I'm able to talk about this. And we followed the yellow brick road down the trail, down to its logical conclusions, and we're seeing how the Most High is getting things together. Now, yeah, it sometimes it sounds very far fetched. No, I can't see that happening. No, that would never happen. No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I get it. Before I do get started, this message is for our Q2-Way volunteers. I am working with Microsoft to get my global admin credentials reset. My global admin credentials reset. So when I was trying to work on that Saturday evening after Shabbat, Microsoft had an issue. So I'm I, I'm trying to get back onto my Q2A credentials for global admin so we can get that taken care of. So if there's any Q2A emails, business, things of that nature, please keep in mind I am limited in my communication with with that email. So I wanted to make sure I bring that admin note here in Q2A because Q2A is doing a lot of things behind the scenes. That container opened up land acquisition. And we're praying that this land acquisition, it's a lot. It is a this is a campaign that it's a lot. And what I was doing in the background, so a lot of these big campaigns, these big items, I tried to manage it myself and not really bring it into these spaces for obvious reason. I don't like to there are certain things I don't like to do on YouTube specifically because if you realize this, it's getting mighty dangerous, especially when you are actually doing change and you're not a plant or a setup or something as a COINTELPRO agent that we have traditionally seen. Sorry. Like again, or again, as I stated, I work for the Most High. Now, when it came to the container, we had an awesome response. And this land acquisition, it's a little different because of what we would have access to and what it does provide. It provides for building a hospital. So there have been some things in the background that I have been taking care of with some other folks, and we've tried to have it as a limited engagement. The Most High gave us favor with the King, and so I have. Well, I'm going to say not I, but we. We need to find some folks that would be able to sponsor the land acquisition. And that sponsorship is going to be a pretty large penny of sorts. So if you know of anyone that's capable of a large item donation, I definitely would appreciate you pointing them out to q2way.org, and I'll have some more information leading throughout this week. I say all that to say this. As much as we see all this craziness happening around the world, the Most High has literally allowed us to be a couple of steps ahead. Now, whether or not we take advantage of that, I don't know. That to me, that's the Most High. But I am glad that we have been able to really heed his call, because now we're in a different time. This is a time of conquering. And I'm going to tell you that we're in a different time because now these nations are seeing that if you're not banding together, you're going to get conquered. And now when people say who can make war against the beast, well, again, the beast is still on, is still having the whore riding it. You didn't hear any condemnations about Venezuela from Europe. Did you now? No, you didn't, because they were just waiting as vultures. You have to understand principalities. The eagle comes in, kills, slaughters, and then the rest of the birds, the vultures, they come on in to then pick apart what the eagle has slaughtered. Oh, a nation that that's as swift as the eagle. Oh my goodness. That's Deuteronomy chapter 28. We look at that in Enoch, the birds that continue to devour, getting plucked clean. We look at that. These are the prophetic positions that we're in because we're in here as a people that is seeing all this take place. And again, when you see all this take place, guess what? It should not be appalling to you. Oh my goodness, I never thought that would happen. Sorry. If you've been listening to this channel, if you've been listening to Yakoba and Teyu, if you've been listening to Sister Shonda, even Brother Fast Nickel, Brother Red, Sister Shar. Sister Shar, she's just working on relationships, which is good because we need all that. But just about every single one of our members here and within our spaces, within this community, and this is what it is, it's community. We're understanding that we cannot be individualistic anymore. It's not going to work. I don't care if you're a Hebrew. I don't care if you're a Muslim. I don't care. I don't care if you are a camp. I don't care if you are a Baptist. It doesn't matter. We're beyond that point. Oh, this just happened. Grim Sincere. She shout out, shout out to my sister Grim Sincere. Yeah, she will. She lets me know. She puts me up on game in those emails. Thank you, sister. Look, I'm telling you, it's now tit for tat. I want to. I want to share this. Sorry, I'm getting my. Oh, I can't. I'm trying to not have my Episcopalian evangelical inflections and overtones. Well, South Africa and said, I said the Republic of South. No, no, but I want us to to understand what is happening, because we're going to hear one side of the story, but understand what the rest of the world is really saying without trying to say it. Here it is. This is from South Africa. South Africa, this is on January 3rd, 2026. South Africa urges UN Security Council session following unilateral military action in Venezuela. The government of the Republic of South Africa notes with grave concern the recent developments, which were confirmed by the United States of America, that it has conducted a large scale military strike against Venezuela and its leader, Nicolas, President Nicolas Maduro, who has been captured along with his wife and flown out of the country. He got flued out. And it wasn't because he was on vacation. No, he's not visiting New York City to see Times Square and get a nice stroll through Central Park. No, he, he's not seeing Radio City Music Hall. No, he's in bars. He's under cuffs, chains. He is in Rome, facing the wrath of Caesar. Let that sink in. That is why I have that on the thumbnail. You're now seeing the wrath of Caesar. You're now seeing the way that Rome operates. History has repeatedly, I'm just going to skip down here because they talk about the violation of Charter of the United Nations and blah, blah, blah. We realized that. History has repeatedly demonstrated that military invasion against sovereign states yield only instability and deepening crisis. Okay? Unlawful unilateral force of this nature undermines the stability of the international order and the principle of equality among nations, because there's none. South Africa calls on the UN Security Council, the body mandated to maintain international peace and security, to urgently convene to address this situation. That sounds good. But again, I'm sorry. Give me a 1 on this channel if you've heard me say diplomacy is dead. Give me a 2 on this channel if you didn't hear me say that diplomacy had died. 1, if diplomacy had died. 2, if you think diplomacy is still alive. Quick poll. Got to get you up and more early, ready early this morning. Diplomacy had died. We had been saying that diplomacy had died for quite a while. It died. Neo-diplomacy is the new currency, and it truly is. Understand the situation that you all are in compared to the situation that they're in. Because you want to know why? Because we have a relationship with our brothers and sisters on the continent. Oh my goodness. Even though it's still burgeoning, even though it's still getting formed, it's still a relationship. A relationship that the West still tries to trample down, coup attempt after coup attempt. And strike against strike. Destabilization over destabilization. But here's the thing. Do you know that the more that they do that, the more that the relationship holds? Because again, here's the reality. We're now starting to see, and I pray that our people are starting to see, this is now the reality that we're going to have here in the United States. Oh, you better understand. The more that they strike out against these nations, the more we're in trouble. Why is that? Because we're the vulnerable population. You know, sometimes I'll joke and I'll laugh like, "Hey, if I get disappeared, really the reality is it's not a funny matter. It's not a laughing matter. This is a matter that's real serious. It's deadly serious because you got to understand how this thing works. Over the next couple of weeks, probably days, folks that will speak out against this or say anything against this doesn't matter. It's folks within our community. They'll either censor or then they'll say, no, we had this law that passed on the first, and you're now out of compliance with this law. You could be fined for this, jailed for that, you name it. It's going to target us. It's going to target us. And it's been targeting the awakening, but now it's just who cares? If you notice, the Most High has given them no choice. They don't have any choice. Their economy is falling. All this tit for tat, it's not working. Everything that they think that they can do, well, of course they're trying to destabilize Caracas. Of course they're going to try to destabilize Venezuela because that's the same game plan that they used. Oh my goodness, wait for it. Stabilize. No, it didn't. Many can argue that Iraq fell apart, and it fell apart. Can you all hear me? Give me one if you can hear me. Sorry, they're probably already they're probably already going. Thank you, family. Hit those likes, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. This what I'm sharing with you was just a tweet on X regarding South Africa, their um their press release. You can see it right here. Department of International Relations and Cooperation. So I wanted to give that to you all just in case you're looking to see what it was that I was saying. Obviously, having sources is always good. Now, understand you're also right now you're going to get a lot of Western propagandish slant coming through. Oh, it's been in chaos and confusion. Everything is in chaos. Well, who calls that chaos? Remember all these UN, oh, the year of blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. In the wooded neighborhood, this is from the Washington Post via MSN.com. Confusion reigns and chaos after Maduro's capture by U.S. forces. Is it? No, I would actually say that they are going to try to find that narrative. Oh, everything's confusing. Everything is this. Everything is that. Because why? Oh, we got to send in folks. The question that I always had in my mind was this: do they really think that they're going to literally colonize? This is an actual colonization operation in front of our eyes. Neo-colonialist. This is neo-colonialization. This, to me, now you see this. This is why BRICS was formed for this specific reason. So when Trump had said we're going to smash BRICS, that's why everybody was trying to jump on the BRICS train, because they saw this thing coming. Oh, and guess what? And it's not done there, because remember, they don't have the calculus, or they do have the calculus, and I honestly believe it's this. It's not just about the fight externally. This is also about an internal fight. They're trying to get them to fight us. Hello. They're trying to get them folks to fight us. We had said this a while ago. We said this a couple months ago. Oh, you don't agree with what's happening in Venezuela? You don't agree with what's happening here and there? Then you're not a patriot. Remember, we basically said, no, thank you. What are you going to do? We're just going to sit back, we're going to relax, and we're just going to focus on the Most High. Are you not outraged that we struck Venezuela? Are you not outraged that we did? Nope. No, that's not our fight. Well, what is your fight? Because we're going to bring some other folks that's going to fight you. Okay, you can. But when you do that, guess what's going to end up happening? We're going to shout out. We're going to cry out. And we're going to cry out to the Most High in heaven. And we're going to do something that we haven't done in quite a while. We're going to ask for forgiveness. We're going to ask for forgiveness, because we're going to have to look at our internal failures. And we're going to have to say, Father, we can't make it out of this place because we're locked down on the CBDC. We can't make it out of this place because we're locked down on this digital ID. We can't make it out of this place because some of us have been patented with the lollipop, when we had witnessed even our family members turn into the new species of the Borg. What they said, Homo Borgogenesis. I'm not making that up. Father, your people are cooked. And even though that may not be most of us, and really, the reality is it's not most of us, but it is our family members. It's our wives, it's our husbands, it's our moms, it's our dads, it's our brothers and our sisters, our sons and our daughters. Because why? Because now we're starting to see that we have been the frogs boiling in the pot, and the pot just went up just a little bit more. The heat got turned up just a little bit stronger. Understand now, they're in a bit of a bind or a pickle, however you want to call it. Because why? Because now these nations are speaking up and they're speaking out. And of course, they're going to have these little articles here, these puff articles. It also appeared to strike the residential neighborhood seen as an oasis in this chaotic city, leaving residents bewildered and afraid. And keep in mind, the new interim president, Delcy Rodriguez, Trump actually threatened her. If you don't do what we say, it's going to be far worse for you. That's a threat. You can look it up on Fox. You can look it up in all these news outlets. What, and again, I said this, what do you think the other nations will say? Hey, Tenenbaum, if you don't get this thing taken care of, hey, Rudo, if you don't get this taken care of, this is speaking to the heart of every single puppet leader on the African continent. You don't do what Rome says, you're going to come here and you're going to walk the perp walk, looking like a messed up episode of Law and Order SVU. Do 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 down bang 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 do. With iced tea, special appearance by iced tea, putting you in handcuffs. Boom, bum, 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 bum. As you're wearing blackout goggles and headphones. Sensory deprivation. And he's literally saying this to the whole world. If you don't obey your king, you're done. Are we not living in some interesting times? Because to me, it looks as though these are interesting times. And I don't know how long we have, but it's very interesting. Here's this person from a Daniel DiMartino. Trump essentially threatens to delete Delcy Rodriguez if she doesn't handle the transition to democracy well. Thank you, Mr. President. Venezuela's trust you. That's what he states. But it says in a telephone interview this morning, President Trump issued a not so veiled threat. It was a threat. If she doesn't do what's right, she is going to pay a very big price, probably bigger than Maduro. Come on. This is now an inflection point. You know, sometimes, biblically speaking, when those that are that are having those murderous threats against them, what usually always tends to happen to that person? It's usually a fall. It's usually a calamitous fall right before our very own eyes. Why do the wicked thrive? I used to always say that. Why, Father? Why are we sitting here and the wicked are just enjoying themselves, having a great old time? They're in their heyday. So, what do you think that that's going to signal to the rest of the world? Because understand, I'm going to tell you, it's funny that we told people about white supremacy. You told people about white supremacy. See, white supremacy is a symptom of vanity. That's the whole situation here. It's vanity. But the problem that people don't want to face is that when you are pride, arrogant, and vain, it's grievous. It's an injury. Because why? Because the injury doesn't, you don't heal pride. Pride doesn't heal on its own. You know what happens with pride? It's either you repent and you turn from your wicked ways, or else you're going to be led into the destruction that has been slated for that path. There's nothing good on the path to destruction. It's a path to destruction. Because why? Because the lack of humility, the lack of meekness. It doesn't say that the pride and the arrogant and the vengeful and the wicked are going to inherit the earth. It does not say that. It says that the what? That the meek shall inherit the earth. So when people talk about how much time these nations have, I have to ask these folks, are you reading the same Bible that I'm reading? Oh, no, that's right. You don't read. That's right. America's literacy rate is in the toilets because why? Because they don't want them to read because they don't want them to understand the word. Why were we even learning how to read to begin with in this education system? Well, technically speaking, so we could actually be educated in understanding the word and reading the Bible. I was reading at 3 years old. My brother and I were reading at 3 years old. Why? So we could read the Bible, so we could read the word. We were up in preschool, up in children's church. I can read the story my parents didn't play because they made sure that my brother and I grew up in that word and greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Resist the devil, resist Hasatan, and he shall flee. Look, it's because why? Because we've been programmed and we were righteously programmed. And that righteous programming is done when you are a not just hearer, but you also are a reader and doer of the word. You have to read because you have to see it in your eye gate. You have to hear it because you have to hear it in your eye gate. You have to carry it on out because you have to carry it on out in your heart gate. Because why? Because your heart is your desire, and your desires are what pushes you to do the actions that you do. If you desire lust, then guess what? You won't be lusting after something. So then you'll be pushed to do some things, and then those things will label you in a not so good light. If you notice this with this lustful nation, which is all about vanity, lust is vanity, lust is pride, and lust is arrogance. It is. Have you noticed that these folks are usually pedophiles or have some sort of sexual issues because it's all vanity? That's all reaping in your flesh. Now, here we go. Let me get to this story. Trump set sights on Greenland. Can't make this up. Trump set sights on Greenland. President says U.S. needs Danish territory for defense from China and Russia. Because why? Because your vanity is always insatiable. It can never be satisfied. What do you think is happening? I'm just giving you all biblical understanding on what's happening in the world right now. You can ignore it, you can hide from it. I don't care. That's not my problem. I'm telling you what's happening, why it's happening, and how this thing is going down to the best that the Most High is able to provide to me, because He's not going to provide everything. Well, you can kind of get the Cliff's Notes. You can see kind of the previews before you see the movie playing on out. You see what I'm saying? Oh, this is going to be a good movie. Oh, I can't wait. Oh, man. I remember when I used to work at AMC, I'd hear people talk about, man, I can't wait for a movie because, they'll talk about the different segments, the scenes that drew them to the movie. They don't know how the movie goes, script by script, frame by frame, but they know enough that it attracted them to spend the ticket, pay for the popcorn and drink, have their date there to spend time looking at the same thing. The Most High is engaging us to do what? To see what is happening and to understand that it's happening. There's nothing going to stop this. Buckle up for the ride. We said that. There's nothing going to stop it. Oh, man, I'm surprised. Look what Trump did. Oh, my goodness. That was totally out of the blue. Now, for me, I did say that, I didn't think that that was going to happen. But then when he had said he built up the armada and blah, 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 and everything else, I'm like, yeah, that's going to happen. He has a lot of assets. It's not just Venezuela. It's going to be a capture and seizure of basically Colombia. They're going to reinforce Panama, and then they're going to obviously reinforce Nicaragua and other places. Habakkuk chapter 2 moment. Woe to a nation. We've read these scriptures many times on this channel. I'm just giving it to you. Habakkuk chapter 2. They want to talk about democracy, but they're trying to establish democracy via blood. They want to talk about democracy, but let's just be honest. Whenever they say we're going to do democracy, you want to know what that means? We're going to manipulate the system and act like you all had a choice in the matter. And then guess what? We're going to suppress you. I'm sorry, I may sound like the most undemocratic person ever. Democracy is a lie. Just saying, it's a lie. Especially when you're here in the Western construct. It's a lie. What happened to people that have actually even been elected? Well, guess what? They get removed. It's a lie. And then they'll say, "Oh, well, that's we saw tremendous irregularities." That's what they'll say, irregularities, and we're still no. Everything looked good, and then they take that person out. If they're not really able to truly manipulate things. I'm just saying. Tell me I'm wrong. Prove to me that I'm wrong. They can't prove it. And they get mad because they know it's actually true. I had that question also. Why do you think Putin and China allowed Maduro to be kidnapped? I think it was this. If you're BRICS and you have been telling people, look, watch, you need to be in BRICS. Watch, you're not safe. Watch. If you say something or do something that goes against them, they're going to remove you from power. Watch. I don't care how nice you try to be to them. If they want you gone, they're going to get you gone. Understand that for a lot of these countries, they'll say, no, there's no way. We have international order. We have international law standards and norms. We have international blah 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 blah. Russia and China have been telling them, no, look, might is right. Might makes right. Oh, I don't believe that because we have a democratic blah 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 blah. Okay, if you want to, if you think so, this is for the rest of the nations so they can see. They need to stop dreaming because it looks like Nicolas Maduro and his wife have been dreaming, and then they woke up to a very big nightmare. Literally, still in their pajamas. And keep it in mind, they were trying to do the same thing to Traore. What are they trying to do? They're trying to get back their resources. This place is going broke. Like I said, they're trying to do the whole neocolonialization. 2026 is neocolonialization, recolonization campaign. What's the theme of 2026? To recolonize, to conquer. This is a time of conquest. I don't believe it, Brother Karras. I can't see it, Brother Karras. I can't understand. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Look, I don't even like to engage with people like that anymore. Venezuela. Then they start to act like they're Stevie Wonder. Well, they start bobbling their head and looking up in the sky. Well, I don't know. Would you like to hear some music? No. Thank you, PN Lewis, for the Canadian $20 bill. I appreciate it. Don't worry. We'll get your money up. The U.S. will get your money up when Trump comes to town. We'll turn that Canadian D into USD. When y'all on the 51st state, all them counties, regions, it'll probably be like regional parishes or something in counties in there. All on our way to Greenland. Don't worry, Trump's coming. What you gonna do when national security's coming for you? Tell me. Bad boy, bad boy. Now Trump said, no, 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 no. Trump says, I'm here, there, I'm everywhere. I wish that this was a movie. It's not. This is reality. This is real life. And this scary movie is just getting started. And no, it's not the Marlon Wayne's character, Jody. I see, I see white people. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. The ignorance. This is real. You got now. It says it right here. This is from the Telegraph.uk. .co.uk. Donald Trump has set his sights on a U.S. takeover of Greenland after capturing Nicolas Maduro and saying he would run Venezuela. He said, "We run the yard. Who run it?" I'm surprised that he'd be listening to 50 Cent. Instead of G Unit, he got T Unit. T Unit. Marco Rubio adds the game. Pete Hegseth as Lloyd Banks. T Unit. Don't give those folks any ideas in the White House. My goodness. And y'all don't even. I literally. I wrote this. I wrote a book about this. The rise of Africa, the continent, the diaspora, and BRICS. You all know that they had a party over at the Mar-a-Lago when that thing was going down. Stop playing. Stop playing. They had a party. Okay, get the cameras out of here. Get the cameras out of here. Bring in the champagne. And you know that they're bringing in other things, and that's a shame. And those things were, we could say PYTs. Pedophile culture, which is unreal. And here we are. Like I had stated, now Trump is playing global monopoly. My man said, forget Atlantic City and New York City. I don't just have Park Place and Boardwalk. I'm going to get the whole world. But people were just sitting here like, oh, no, that's not going to happen. Oh, no, that's not going to happen. People act like, oh, we still have till 2027 or 2028 or 2030. Get out of here with that nonsense. You're going to see, I think that they had already stated some retaliatory measures of sorts. And I have to always kind of check. Some of these things I do have to look at with the grain of salt. But I got to run over to X. This is from a Daria Mashawari. Release them at once. China asked Trump administration to immediately release Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife. I think his wife is Celia Flores, if I'm not mistaken. And this is an article from Ministry of Foreign Affairs, People's Republic of China. It's a screenshot. Foreign Ministry spokesperson's remarks on the U.S. seizing Venezuela President Nicolas Maduro and his wife. It's like a Q&A thing. It is reported, so question is reported that on January 3rd, the U.S. sent forces to seize Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife and took them out of the country. The governments of multiple countries have voiced opposition. What's China's comment? And then it gives answer. China expresses grave concern over the use of the U.S. forcibly seizing President Nicolas Maduro and his wife and taking them out of the country. The U.S.'s Move is in clear violation of international law, basic norms in international relations, and the purposes and principles of the UN Charter. China calls on the U.S. to ensure the personal safety of President Nicolas Maduro and his wife, release them at once, stop toppling the government of Venezuela, and resolve issues through dialogue and negotiation. That's easier said than done. And Sean, that's the question. How many nations are turning their back on the US? Now, I'm going to say this. I believe that de-dollarization is going to go full steam ahead. Who wants to hold on to any type of dollars or bonds of a corrupt regime? I'm sorry. Nobody. It's unconscionable. Think about this. It's unconscionable. Now you have a clear violation of US law. Now you have a genocider supporting a nation. You have a rogue element. It's lawlessness. And I don't think that people can clearly understand what that looks like because we're still within that. And I'm going to say this: it's a 96-hour period. Yeah, and you have to understand right now that female president, Delcy Rodriguez, she's in between a rock and a hard place. And I'm sorry, are you going to stand up to wickedness or are you going to bow on your knees? This isn't a Republican coup. You may not have been here for a while, but this is not a Republican coup. This is the United States. This is the two wings joining together on this bird. And I mean, people can say that whatever they want to say, however they want to say it, because it makes them feel good, and I get it. Oh no, that's not good. They don't care. This is about the system. This is about the Western Empire. This is really about prophecy being fulfilled. It's not about who releases us out of, well, it's the Democrats that's going to release us from captivity. The Republican, no, that point is overshot. This was also under the Biden administration because even Biden was setting up things for Trump. This is the way that this system works. You're just now seeing the Janus and Jambry system of how it works. The two faces. Last year it was peace, peace. This year it was war. And it's funny because I know a lot of people tend to overlook that it was also under Biden that Ukraine popped off. Remember, he was trying to get Ukraine into NATO, and that was the no go. That was basically like saying, "Hey, I'm going to rearm Cuba with nuclear missiles." Do you think that the U.S. would have just sat there and taken it? Nope, they would have sailed warships down to Cuba. Because you want to know why? Because we just saw them sail warships down to Venezuela. And now they're about to sail warships over to Cuba and potentially even Mexico and Colombia. This is Rome. I don't here's the thing. I don't know if they betrayed Maduro in the sense of being betrayed. I do have to say this. I would say that they probably did not have all their pieces in play to be able to overtly support Maduro. Remember, China was just getting there. That was the whole delegation. If and generally speaking, when you meet with the delegation, then that authorizes, the whole bureaucratic process, which they probably would have landed people probably like in a week or two. Okay. I'm starting to understand this. All right. Here's the thing. I don't care what your political affiliation is. It doesn't matter to me. Trump was wrong. Biden was wrong. Look, this is Rome. And you have to also understand, family. I've been dealing with this. I think in a lot of these are AI chatbots. A lot of these are AI chatbots because here's the thing: we're covering very sensitive topics, and the design is for you all to be ignorant. If you didn't know, that's the design. So the way that this system works, in my shadow banning or being shadow banned, they'll bring in these distractions, these chat bots. And I can tell because I see these little different things here that actually shows in my little stream yard who's actually a legitimate person or not. And they get queued. They get queued. And honestly, it's actually kind of scary because they are very sophisticated. Okay, here's this prompt, here's this prompt here, because what are they doing? They're listening. And when they're listening, they can formulate. When they formulate, they have their little, here you go, here's this, here's that. The reality is people don't listen to reason, they listen to conjecture. And the whole idea is I'm going to flood you with all of these different nonsensical words, because if you're reading it in your eye gate, then guess what? It's a capture, right? I'm capturing your attention, so therefore I'm able to mystify you, and therefore I'm able to charm you, and therefore it's witchcraft. Plain and simple. If you notice, like I said the other day, how blatantly obvious this stuff is. See, they're going to get mad right now because there's a couple different things that they know is a trigger. Rome, ancient Rome, Babylon, Bible, prophecy. You put all those things on in there, those are triggers for the algorithm that's under obviously Eastern Mediterranean control. Then when the live goes, then they'll show on up at the point of when they allow the live to be shown. They can't just, all right. So the way that this goes, if you're sharing this, then that defeats the algorithm. However, what they will then do is they know how human nature is. So then they'll throttle people down. Basically, they'll kick you on out of these live streams. That's how that goes. You're starting to understand how the design of social media, and I would say this, actually in this time frame, we are a lot less freer than we were 20, 25 years ago. Because it's the illusion and the appearance of freedom. And even with all this social media, quote unquote social media, it's really not. Believe it or not, is what you have is we have stated things against the ruling powers, and we've asked for things to be held accountable for the ruling powers, which actually is very, very dangerous. Because everything that I'm saying, and that's why I have to say, I have to be very careful with what I say. I need to be very careful with what I say, because again, what the person's trying to say is, well, you need to target Trump, and you need to target Trump and Trump only because it's all Trump. Oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, that's right. And then they want you to placate with them. So then lesser minds indict themselves. When these, let's call it what it is, when these executive orders start to go through, and it's like, hey, you've been charged with a crime against the U.S. for dissension during time of war. I didn't know it was a war. Yeah, we've been in war. I know that. Well, yeah, it has been. Nothing ever got rescinded. No policies ever done this. Nothing. No. So that's why I always have to say you got to be careful, because this is also how Rome operates. A police action to see, no, they did a seizure. There was definitely a police action. What do they call that? What is that? Forfeitures, property forfeitures during the seizure. They're going to try to forfeit the whole, do a property uh, seizure, a forfeit seizure for the whole nation. A whole nation was going to get locked down. And he said that we're going to run it. I'm sorry, but understand that even, and I'm going to say this based off of UN charters and mandates, international norms, standards, look, that's illegal. What does that mean? It doesn't matter about Trump. It doesn't matter about, the administration. None of that mess matters. Yeah, thank you. Asset forfeiture. Thank you. Thank you, Clifford. What that does, what it does is it opens the stage. And listen, I don't know. Maybe Maduro was like, hey, look, I'll be the guinea pig. Have you ever thought to wonder that maybe some people are just so sick and tired of, the white supremacy and the lies? It's like, look, I'll sacrifice for my people. I know, and I understand in the society here in the West, that's a hard thing because when you're in a society of, let's just state it, very individual people, scornful people, vengeful people, hateful people, sometimes you'll have leaders that will say, fine, if I have to take the fall, I'll take the fall so my children and grandchildren can live. I know it literally makes no sense because we live here in the United States. Sometimes when you're a leader and you're in that position, you already know, okay, for my people to live, I may have to fall. And because I fall, let this be let this be a prophetic warning. So they can say truthfully, rightfully, that they actually have a claim to the Most High. You realize that, right? The blood cries out. You realize that, right? Blood cries out. It doesn't matter if you're an Israelite, it doesn't matter if you're a Gentile. That blood cries out. Now, that's a powerful statement. The wicked aren't in rule very long, but they're in rule. Let me tell you about this. This is actually pretty interesting. It was It was a battle. I'm trying to remember. It was a Samite battle, and this is kind of why I put this on in here. I like to watch the Kings and Generals YouTube channel. I like to see all the history. I'm a history person. It was interesting that when you saw how Rome was literally created, it took Rome a couple, at least 2 or 300 years to be created, and then you had the empire for another like 400 or 500 years. What ended up happening in one of these battles, there was a Samite battle. Samites were basically east and southeast of Rome. They were kind of in the mountains and the hills. Excuse me. They eventually, came under the Roman Empire. But what ended up happening was that um as Rome was kind of beginning to conquer, because they'd always conquer through trade. That was their first form of conquering. Well, let's make this agreement and let's get trade. And then as they continue to encroach, and that's what they did, they encroached on the Samite territory. The Samites said, no, we're not having that. That's our town. And then the Samites, they raised an army to basically, obviously, control their territory. And the Romans raised their armies, and they had basically um, walked right into this valley and had been encircled, and a lot of Romans lost their lives. And what the general, one of the Roman generals had said this. He said I forgot what they call it, but they give them a dictatorium. They get, and that's what it's like. It's like something, like their last words, like they're, I'm going down, but as I go down, remember that I'm going down, so then you can fight them stronger and harder, so then my blood can be avenged, and you remember how my blood was avenged, something to that effect. And the Sammonite general that was there was communicating with his father on the front lines. Hey, what do I do? Do I just rout them all, or do I leave a contingent? And the father was actually trying to say, rout them all. The Samite general, he left the contingent, and they went back. And Rome regrouped. And Rome didn't just regroup. They came through, they reconquered, and they mercifully slaughtered everyone. Because what ended up happening was that they took that to heart. There was no discussions, there was no let's, have some dialogue. They went through, they gathered more troops, and they rolled through the Samites. And they did things in a very horrible way, boiling people's skin off and all that other stuff. That's very vile and cruel. But if you are a leader of a nation and you know what you're getting into, think about that. Think about what you would be saying to your people. Think about if you're pleading to the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, not the queen of the universe, not the queen of heaven. I may not even be a righteous man. I may not even have any authority or standing to make my petition known. But as I give up my life for my people, I pray that you deliver vengeance for those that were righteous in your eyes. Remember, it's not just our blood that cries out, it's also their blood too. Yes, it does. We have just been the chosen seed. So we were able to teach the nations. That failed. Now, what you're understanding is that their sins have reached unto what? Unto heaven. Because why? Because now people are literally sacrificing themselves so that the Most High can listen. We don't want to do, we don't prescribe, that type of sacrifice. And I look at that because I would say that one of the things that you're starting to see right now when we're looking at um these actions that are being taken by bricks. We're beginning to see that, to be quite honest, if I look at this right here, to me, this is just my opinion alone. This provocation directly leads to World War III because now this nation, the United States, has been given verbal dictates, verbal, whatever you want to call it, condemnations, things of that nature. And guess what will then happen? We need to form a coalition of the willing to reinstall a president that was wrongly taken. And you still have provocative actions being discussed by that nation that took the president. This week is going to be the most strategically pivotal week that we have ever seen. You're going to see potentially this week, you may see the UN fall apart. You may literally see the UN fall apart. Because why? Because whatever they said for the UN Charter, they literally just ripped it to shreds. They spit on it. Hey, it just didn't happen with that Eastern Mediterranean nation, but this has now happened with the U.S. These folks are out of control. Understand what that also does to Europe. Europe is now in a very defining, it's a very defining manner for Europe. If you don't want to condemn, then you will be embargoed too. See, as I had stated this, you have to look and see how the moral card gets played on out. The moral positioning, the moral construct. Because as people are thinking that, oh, this is all said and cool, and look at that, and look how big we are, guess what? At the same time, we're literally having every nation, all these nations coming against the United States as we speak. And people try to say, no, that won't happen, that will never happen. Okay. This is from the Express. Donald Trump threatens to remove sick Colombia president in second operation. President Trump has explicitly threatened other South American countries with military action. It's by Mateo Smith. U.S. President Donald Trump seemed to foreshadow a potential military operation in Colombia, denouncing the nation's leader as a sick man who sells cocaine to Americans. See, now it was about terror 20 years ago. That ran its course. Now it's going to be about drugs. The comments came days after U.S. launched a special forces raid in Venezuela, kidnapping both President Nicolas Maduro and his wife. Colombia is very sick too, run by a sick man who likes making cocaine and selling it to the U.S., and he's not going to be doing it very long. So, will there be an operation in Colombia? One reporter said. Sounds good to me, President Trump responded vaguely, offering no further insight to his answer. Time of conquest. But here we are. We it doesn't mean anything. He had said this to Mexico, but see, they're too afraid of Mexico. I'm going to tell you this: they're too afraid of Mexico because Mexico can infiltrate the U.S. mainland. That's what they're afraid of. Those cartels can infiltrate. They can do some damage in El Paso. They can do some damage through Juarez in El Paso and other places. They can do some damage in Arizona and in California. That's what they're afraid of. I'm just saying, Cynthia, it's not that Mexico really has anything to pillage. It's the fact that you're seeing a nation. Okay, the way that vanity works, and it's not okay. So it's white supremacy, but it's actually vanity. The way that vanity works is that people that are vain are actually insecure. When you're insecure, then you have to make sure that you're taking everything that you can next to you in proximity under control, right? Which is why, like I said, we're next. We're on the chopping block for whatever actions that they want to have against us. The problem is that when they get to the level of us, we are then able to cry out to the Most High. That's when people say the nuclear option. Nuclear option is when you have to start subduing, you know, us openly. That's what I say openly. There's a difference to that. I give that caveat openly. And yes, no, Mexico can't fight back with a standing army like that, but they can fight back via the use of different cartels. And on top of that, their fighting back could be a little bit more nastier because if they said, okay, that's fine, you want to do that, you want to play this game, well, remember the our over the last like really 5 to 10 years, our numbers in terms of drug use and think about that with fentanyl. This is why they don't like to even really state the drug use and things of that nature. Yeah, we have our people on drugs, but the rates of them being on drugs is not the same and has actually been reducing. Our numbers have been reducing. Hallelujah. That's the most high. Now, what the what Mexico could say is that okay, well we're going to spike something in these drugs that come across the border from us. They could put poison in the drugs, and guess who's going to be the number one consumers of that poison? You already know who the number one consumer is, but I'm just saying, especially when you're seeing times like this, times of uncertainty, times where their jobs, well, guess what? That also has a correlation impact of drug use. and that tends to affect them more because why? Because they're on the rise. Remember this whole war on terror thing, or excuse me, on drugs, this narco nonsense. So when people say, "Oh, it's a Trump thing, it's a Trump that and Trump this," if it is, how come no one ever found out who brought in the vial of nose candy to the White House during the Biden administration? During the Biden administration, everybody's all in on it together. And I know that a lot of people don't want to act like that's the case. It is the case. Look, in my opinion, Venezuela was the low hanging fruit. They had already been decimated by years, decades of very bad infrastructure. And the infrastructure also messes with your military. If you're having issues with your infrastructure, your basic needs, water, electricity, energy, things of that nature, well, obviously your armed forces will suffer because your armed forces are a force of a police state, not an actual defense state. They're just set up to police and not defend. And that's what you saw. And when you're a police state and not a defense state, guess what? You're not going to worry about surface to air missile capabilities. Look, maybe those S-300s, maybe that's all they could afford. We probably should have gone with some S-400s. I'm just saying. Oh yeah, Ninja Firewolf. You already know people in Greenland are panicking. Yeah, that everybody's a drug dealer. Everybody's a drug dealer. I can't wait to see what the new Dare program is going to look like. Oh, Carson. Greenland 2 comes out this Friday. Yeah, have you noticed what was going on with Greenland? They get out of their so the synopsis of that movie is they get out of their bunkers, and then the people that had escaped the United States, they then go into Europe or what's left of it to recolonize, or excuse me, repopulate. Interesting subtext, subplot for that movie. I just think that that's interesting. But here we are in this time. This is the time of conquest. We're telling you this. Peace has been removed from the earth. Oh, they're not going to tell you about the CIA's part in the whole in the whole spiel. No, no, that doesn't sound very good, and we all know where that leads to. That leads to us, and they're not trying to have that. So now here we are, all of a sudden. Again, I really do want to. I really am going to try to keep my eye on some different things, especially this week, because anything is now possible. Now you have nations that are going to legally go against the United States because the United States, understandably, they performed an illegal action. Now, what these other nations are going to say is, okay, well, clearly we now need to make this move because we're dealing with a rogue nation. We're dealing with a rogue element. Now we can see how this thing works. And that's what it is. It's rogue. Hey, and listen, I'm actually not saying it. That's actually what the world is saying. We talked about what China was saying. I mean, Russia, it is what it is. But I talked about South Africa, and you'll have other many nations denouncing all of this. Yeah, Shetla fentanyl mainly comes from China. It does, but they can't really touch China. That's a peer-to-peer adversary, near peer-to-peer. And the reality was is that the way that he so you know braggadocious about it. Nobody can stop us. Nobody. There's no one on this earth that can stop us. That dude literally said that. This is that's literally called a dangerous element. And when people looked at me like, you're gonna have probably Europe and the rest of the world probably coming, they'll have some specialized like operation to quote unquote, like free Maduro. You'll potentially have that. Fly them out, have some whatever country special forces go in, break them on out, and then have them fly out on some aircraft carrier or some vessel over in the Atlantic. And then you probably may have some statements from Europe, urging the US to remain calm. And then the US will say, no, that's a violation of our sovereignty. You see how this works? I'm looking at that. I mean, it sounds like an extreme. I look at that. Or they could actually say, hey, if you want to have a fair trial, bring them over to The Hague. Because they could say, hey, we did this rescue operation. We're going to bring them over to The Hague. And if you have a problem, then you have a problem. And we will ask all those to have constraint. Now, the reality is, I can't see that happen because remember that if they take them to The Hague, there's no international charges. Everything there was a police charge, a police action. They'll say they had no jurisdiction. No, that was an international matter. I told you that was war. But remember, they're trying to justify their wickedness. And now, again, they can say whatever they want to say, but the reality is they've uncovered themselves. And their shame has now reached throughout the rest of the world. Oh, is this what the United States is on right now? Can anybody truly do business with this administration? Well, if you do a business and you have a business deal and you do good, you're doing great in that business deal, then what are they going to say? Hey, you're stealing from us. I'm not stealing anything. This is the terms. These are the terms you agreed on. That's no, it's not. It literally just ruined all of its international credibility or any credibility that it had left. Everything's evaporated. And when you don't have any credibility left, now here's the reality. The more people get sick and mad at you, the easier it is for people to come through and destroy. Because now think about it. Now the world is going to be like, man, when they go down, I'm not saying anything. It's not going to be the question of if. They're going to be saying, well, when it goes down, all right, well, they did it to themselves. Too bad. Does that remind you of Jeremiah 50 and 51? And all we're done is said, hey, don't even blame us. Most black folks, we said we're sitting this thing on out and watch this thing go to a calamitous state. Admiral Halsey left and he was like, I'm not going to participate. I know what's going to end up happening. Now, every single one of those folks in the administration are now liable. Here's the reality of this. They're now liable for international war crimes. Yes, they are. And they're just been catching bodies and bodies. Crimes against humanity now. Because I guess now in Venezuela, there are hundreds of people that have been injured, severely injured. Just think about that. You have all the electric cut on out, you have all these things cut on out. People that are in the hospital on Life support. When they cut the power, they cut the power. I told you, electronic warfare. I would have to say it probably, yeah, it was probably a directed, small scale EMP. But people are trying to act like everything's fine and dandy. And I'm like, no, things are not fine and dandy. We're here at a very, very interesting time because now, when they are confronted with how the world is going to literally this week, the world is going to put the U.S. on the spot. And again, when it comes to vanity and white supremacy, which is just the the racial disguise of vanity and arrogance, when all their laundry gets aired out around the world, do you know who's going to, like, cut and run? Europe. Trump gave Europe the out by saying that he wants to go after Greenland. And you know the French. It is vulgar. I am sorry, the atrocities. Comme c'est comme ça. Horrible. Horrible. I do not know. This is not the same America that I had grown up with. This is not the same. This is very, very bad. Sacre bleu. But we act like, oh, nothing's going to happen. Yeah, right. China's probably saying, okay, well, we're going to give you this ultimatum. They're doing backroom deals. I wouldn't be surprised. We're talking right now. We're about to dump. You're about to dump your dollar because then again, what ends up happening? It's to cut their nose to spite their face, but they also realize that if they don't look, if Europe doesn't swallow the poison pill now, then they're going to get cut off from resources from the continent. I think I said something about that last week. They're ride or die. They're ride or die. Again, no honor amongst thieves. Very interesting. Well, family, it's about that time. This week I'm back in school. Back to my academic. Back to them children. The good thing is that I don't really see them till tomorrow. But this is an interesting world that they live in. It's a very interesting world that they're living in. And when I say that this world changes, this thing changes very quickly. And it's not to please don't mistake this. This is not to get anybody mad, upset, angry. It's none of that. This is literally about showing the direction that we're going because a lot of our people, we just may say, oh, you know what? It's not going to happen. Don't worry about it. It's not going to happen. But now the reality is this: now our people are forced to confront this. They're now being forced to confront this. And I'm sorry, right now, no one has an excuse to put their head in the sand. Because again, they're going to be up at that the UN security. I want to let me before I go. Let me take a look at it. United Nations. Oh, dang, that's quick. This is C-SPAN. I'm trying to make sure. I guess that's today. I'm gonna give this here. These are, I think, C-SPAN events. So C-SPAN is C-SPAN is going to show it. It's saying here, United UN Security Council holds meeting on U.S. strikes in Venezuela. UN Security Council holds a meeting to discuss U.S. strikes. So I guess this is going to happen today. If it's not, if it hasn't already happened. No, they're saying to hold an emergency meeting. Yeah, okay, to hold emergency briefing. Okay. So that's going down today. Oh boy. Oh boy. But who am I? I'm just a Negro that doesn't know any better. I know. I'm just here in the YouTube hood, here in the YouTube neck of the woods that be getting shadow banned. We in the shadow banned jets. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. If you want to support this channel, you can do so at $ COVAWK1 if you support via Cash App, or you can support via PayPal or Zelle at Karac at MSN.com. We are definitely in some interesting times. So please keep in mind that, um, potentially speaking, channels like mine, we will be getting targeted. And we've already been targeted, but I mean, it'll be even, I would say, more. Um, it'll be more known. That was one of the things I was going to talk to Joy. I'll probably speak on that tomorrow, because you'll start to see some different things coming on out. Again, this is so fluid. I don't even know what to tell you. I can just see this thing going into 100 different wrong ways. But understand the Most High has already made a way for us. He is that good. He is awesome. So cast your cares. This is going to be an interesting day. Hallelujah. So with that said, family, Most High willing, I'll be back tomorrow. And with that said, family, shalom, salama, siemi, shalom, peace and blessings, Yasharel.